So, if you could first give us your names, age, nationality, and so on, that would be great.
Andrew Godfrey. I'm 34 years old, born in Salt Lake City, Utah, and lived in Las Vegas, Nevada for the last 10 years, up until moving on to the boat 2 weeks ago.
That's right. And I'm Leslie Godfrey, and I'm also 34. I grew up in Tooele, Utah, and I moved to Las Vegas for the last 10 years, and now we've moved on to the boat.
That's cool. And you mentioned the boat. The boat. What is the boat, the size, the type, anything you want to tell us about?
Sure.
Just gush along.
Her name is Sonrisa, and that means smile in Spanish. She is a valiant 40. Let's see.
1981.
1981.
Just after the blister boat problem that Valiant had.
Yes, so she doesn't have blisters.
No blisters.
Yep. She displaces 22,000 pounds.
32,000.
No, that's when it's on
Oh
full.
yeah, 20. Supposed to be 24. She weighs 32. We have a little bit of stuff in her.
Yeah, cruising weight. She's 32,000 pounds. What else is there to say about Miss Sonrisa? Miss Sonrisa has already taken 2 large sails. With her first owner, she sailed from basically New York and the Caribbean. She was in the Caribbean, he lived in New York, and she sailed from the Caribbean through the Panama Canal, through the Pacific Islands to New Zealand, up to Japan, across to the state of Washington, and then south to San Francisco. And there she was sold to the second owners, and they sailed her to Mexico several times, and then when they shoved off for their big trip, they did the Pacific Islands to New Zealand, where she was brought back on a shipping container, and she ended up on the East Coast, and they sailed down the ICW on the East Coast, and then she was trucked back from Texas to San Diego and put up for sale, where we found her.
And that was when?
To November of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you own her for 3 years now.
Yeah.
We've owned her for 3 years.
That's cool. And now to the question: years of cruising, coming and going to, however you want to describe that.
So I came up with the crazy idea in December of 2004, and we started. The first time we went sailing was actually February 28th, 2005. And that was on the Great Salt Lake. And we raced in the summers for a couple of years, then moved down to Lake Mead. Raced there starting in 2007, and bought a boat in 2008, a little 27-foot O'Day. So we've been, basically since 2005, so we've got 10 or 11 years of experience in sailing, racing boats on lakes. So all this wave and tide stuff is new to us, but making do so far.
I want to rewind back and fill that in. So really the way this came up, I was wrapping Christmas presents. It was snowing outside. We were 2 kids who are both from Salt Lake City, Utah, have never really sailed at all. Never sailed at all. Never stepped foot on a sailboat. I'm wrapping Christmas presents. This guy has just graduated from undergrad in his chemical engineering, and he's a little bit frustrated because, he always had this dream to become a chemical engineer, and then he accomplished it. And he was like, "Wait, I don't have anything to dream about." And I said, "Well, you could dream about being a really good chemical engineer." And he said, "No, that's fine, but I need something else." And so I'm rapping, and he says, "What would you think about sailing around the world?" And I said, "Do you know how to sail?" Because we'd been dating for about a year plus at that point, and I had not known this person to ever sail before. And he said, "No, I don't. Do you?" And I was like, "No." So, yeah, that was how the idea was first approached. And then a couple weeks later, he found the Salt Lake Yacht Club?
Great Salt
Lake Yacht Club was handling classes at a library. And so he went, and he won a how to sail book in a raffle, and so he figured it must be meant to be. So then the second meeting, I went, and we learned how to tie bow lines. And from there, we started racing with them. And I just think it's really funny that he had the idea before he ever stepped foot on a sailboat. And then, as quickly as the idea came, he started putting wheels to the road. And that was kind of cool. So
how did this idea for somebody who has never sailed came about? I mean, because chemical engineering, Utah, what was that?
I've always liked reading the old English explorer guys. And so this is true. I have GPS and I have a computer and I have a water maker, but sailing around the world is still a big thing. And so it's kind of a chance to go to those foreign places, go to the places that you kind of don't exist in your daily commute. And it's also a big thing. I needed something big. Like I said, I think I came up with I wanted to be a chemical engineer in 10th grade. And so that was 6 years of kind of focusing on that goal before I got it. And I didn't have a larger long-term goal for a while. So.
Cool.
That's how this came up.
Yeah.
That was a great answer, see? Sometimes. And coming from going to?
Oh, where we're going?
San Diego to San Diego.
A long way. That's right. In more detail. Should we get more detail than that?
Yeah.
Okay. We will start heading south along the coast of Mexico.
February 28th.
On February 28th, yes. 4 days from now, right? 3?
3 days.
3 days from now. And we will stop at Cabo San Lucas. We'll stop at Ensenada to check in, and then Cabo San Lucas, and then from there jump off to the Galapagos Islands. So that's even further south. And then from there we will go west to the Marquesas and sail the Pacific Islands as time allows, ending up in New Zealand by the end of this year, November of 2016. And then we'll stay in New Zealand for a bit of time to hide from the hurricane season. And then the plan is to cross over to Australia, go north on the coast of Australia through, then hopping off Australia to Singapore and Bali and then Singapore, right? And then Thailand. From there, further west to Sri Lanka and the Seychelles, and then south again to Mauritius and Reunion and Madagascar, and then South Africa, across to Brazil, back up to Cape Verde, up to the Azores, through the Mediterranean, down through Canary Islands, across to Lesser Antilles, Colombia, Venezuela, Aruba, Panama Canal, and then up the coast again from Costa Rica, Guatemala, Mexico, and then back to San Diego. That's the plan in a nutshell.
The plan is 5 years.
5 years. Yeah.
So we have covered a little bit motivation for cruising and how long between the dream and the sail off. But maybe you can elaborate a little bit more about the trials and tribulations between getting really the boat and getting it ready and.
So after he had the idea, I mean, we were still in school. I was still in school, and he had just finished school. So I don't know. It seemed a long way off. For us, we had to not only put together some savings, but also dig out of some school debts and
still had to graduate.
Still had to get a job.
Yeah, and then dig out of the hole that we just put ourselves in.
Yeah. So really, the first, I would say, 4 years of the plan was dedicated to, number one, learning how to sail.
Zero.
Well, yeah, number one, learning how to sail, and number two, getting back to zero. We were very lucky to get an awesome job offer in Las Vegas for my job. And so we moved down there, and then he got a really great job for him as well. So that turned out really lucky. And then the downturn happened. And we had bought a house in 2006 in Las Vegas. And if anybody knows anything about the Las Vegas downturn, the house promptly lost about 67% of its value. So Then we didn't just have to dig out of the school debt hole. We had to dig out the house hole. So we did that. And all the while we were learning how to sail. And it was about the time that we had managed that problem that we decided we should probably start thinking about looking at boats. So, gosh, I guess that would have been from 2006 until 2012, essentially. We bought the boat. We found the boat really easily, I think. I think a lot of people have a hard time finding the right boat. Sonrisa happened to be the very first boat that we looked at in the very first slip behind the very first broker that we had talked to. So that was incredibly lucky. We obviously looked at some other boats to compare her and see what else was out there, but in the end, she was really the right boat for us. So we pulled the trigger on that fairly quickly. And Andrew did almost all of the refitting himself. He's a very handy person. My job is to make sandwiches and hand him tools.
And stop the bleeding.
Stop the bleeding. Yeah, I had some jobs, but for the most part, he really did a great job with that. So you should tell them all the things that he did.
Biggest one, we broke a chain plate like a couple of months into owning the boat, which was interesting. And so I got to learn how to get chain plates and how to do fiberglass work and how to all the fun sealant stuff that you get to use on a boat and the miracle of butyl tape. And a million other things. A lot of boats are a lot of work.
He has an incredible talent for squeezing himself into very small spaces. Any boat person knows this. But in a boat, you can't just you can't reach over and access the chain plate over here. Most of them are hidden behind a cabinet, behind a pipe, behind a
you have to take off all the trim, and then you take off all the sealing, and then you can finally start doing something. And 7 of the 8 bolts will come out, no problem. The 8th bolt, you'll be sitting with a Dremel on for the next 2 hours trying to cut the stupid thing off and getting metal filings all over the place, and it's fun. I initially, especially when we first broke the chain plate, boat work was just kind of like, you do it, and it's just a project for the day. You get the boat work done. Boat work is part of being a boat owner, and I've kind of come to accept that a little bit more, and so I see it as part of the process rather than a thing that I have to do that day. So
I call him the Zen Buddha of boat maintenance.
Other than the time that I had a runner, like a trace line in the mast, because we'd pulled one of the halyards. And you have it taped with electrical tape, yanking on it, and the little trace line came out, and I lost the halyard in the mast. And
well, okay, but also some backstory on that. This was at the conclusion of putting everything back together after we had done all, months. 10 of the chain plates?
Yeah.
And so we had been months without sailing. And for us, sailing is the best part.
I bought the boat, had like 3 months of sailing, and then
immediately
several months without sailing, but still paying a small fortune for a boat.
Yeah, so we had driven down that weekend, and he said to me, all we have to do is get this halyard back in, and then we can go sailing. His heart was set on sailing. And as he's pulling on that halyard and the lead line comes off, you could just see his soul be crushed into a million little pieces. He was just like, no. But to be fair, I think we went sailing on Sunday because I'm pretty sure you figured that out on Saturday, and then we went sailing.
But it was just that initial shock. I think that's the only time that I've been driven close to tears on the boat.
He sat down on the life raft and was just like. But honestly, so the reason I am just the sandwich assistant is because I am in no way this patient. And so when I try and take on a maintenance project, nothing works for me. Like, I don't know, it's partially because I've never worked with tools in my life, and I should. I'm getting better. But for me, it just doesn't work. And so I instantly become just enraged that it's not working. And it's fun to watch him because something won't work, and he'll look at it and he'll think, and then he'll try something else, and then he'll keep trying something else, and then he'll do something a little bit different. And it's just, he incrementally works away at this until he gets it. And the tenacity of it is actually really fun to watch. Although I'm sorry to, I'm sorry.
It's fun to watch. It's not fun to be tenacious.
Not fun to be tenacious.
You're talking about me. I'm doing the same. You have to keep at it.
You have to
Just
keep at it.
Keep doing it, whatever.
Yeah.
You make mistakes, they're
okay.
inevitable.
It's part of it. Yeah. And you really can't think too much about the misery, because if you do, then you just will overwhelm you.
You go through cursing, you go through lots of beeps in the video, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do think that if there's, anyone who's ever worked on a boat will know what I'm talking about. That's not unusual, but it is neat to watch. Yeah.
I'm glad I'm entertaining.
And then there's the reward afterwards. I think there's something different about the rewards on the boat. Is there? Could you elaborate on something? Like, does it ring a bell?
What's the book I was reading?
Foul weather sailing, or
no, I can't remember. But there's something to the sickness of loving boats is like a sickness. There's something, you walk along the marina and you're looking at boats and you can just feel that little like ball in your stomach going, you're close to the right place. You're close. And then you get a boat and you get on a boat and you love it. And so you do all sorts of, like, really the last 3 years, every other weekend has been a sail and some fun, but also a lot of work. Because we've been bringing the boat up in quality for the last few years, and so it's been a lot of work going into it, and that's been my weekends. And any sane person with a good paying job, rent a hotel and a pool and get a massage or something, and that's what I should be doing, but instead I'm here getting bloody knuckles and working on a boat. But it's come a long way, and there's something addictive about boats that just isn't. It's not quite the same as anything else that I've ever done in my life. The level of addiction that you feel to it. There's just a draw that is deeper than most anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Very well said.
See that I knew it was in there.
We are thinking the same thing, Is it worth it?
Right.
Yeah.
Come on. We put lots of money into it. We
even just
broke our fingers.
The slip payment. I could stay at a 5-star hotel
with this money, yeah.
Once a month and eat out 5-star hotel meals and probably still be under what I pay every month just to have the boat sitting here, whether I'm here or not.
We've tracked everything that we've spent on this whole process and basically when we moved on the boat, I did the summary total of what it cost to carry her for the 3 years, because one of the big things that we had to analyze in 2012 was, should we get the boat a year before we leave? Or should we get the boat 3 years before we leave? What is the right thing to do? Because there's some carrying costs. But on the other hand, we're not ocean sailors, and so we thought it might be nice to at least try that before we go out. So we tracked everything, and the other day I closed that up, and I knew exactly what that number was. And we do a sail up the coast to Santa Barbara, and as I'm doing my first night watch, and it was really rambunctious seas, quite strong winds, it's dark, it's a little scary out there. I'm sitting there thinking, goodness, you could travel a really long time on the amount that we carried her with without doing this, take a backpack, stay in some hostels, and it doesn't cost nearly as much money or as much blood or as much frustration as it is to have this boat. But she's home. It's different because when you go sailing in a sailboat to a far off place that you don't know, you take your home with you. And so
I have my bed, I have my shower. If I don't like the food, I have my food.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't like the place, you can pick up and take off and
Right,
take your
come
home to another place.
Just sitting here.
Mm-hmm. And so it is somehow all worth it.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very well said.
Yeah. Do you mind telling us a little bit what you did on the boat, or if you had, what kind of percentage of the boat price you had to put back in? I just read that somewhere that some people, it depends on what you get, obviously, but maybe from there, what you improved on or had
Because
to
people
change.
think they buy a boat and then
it's
they
ready to
spend
go.
another $1,000 and that's that.
No.
And then they're gonna go have fun for 10 years.
Right.
So
Because you need to calculate that too.
yeah,
Kind
this boat was really other than the broken chain plate. In 2012, we could have hopped into the boat and started going. It had radar, it had a water maker, it had an autopilot, it had the wind vane, it had
GPS.
GPS, it had
Excellent sales.
it had the sails. Everything was in good enough shape that we could have left the day that we go. So I kind of that's my preface of a starting point. This one wasn't a rundown beater by any stretch of the imagination. But we've still put in 50% of the purchase price into restoring and improving it.
I would say 35%.
Counting this last week.
Oh, I don't know about this last week. Well, but then again, you're not just talking about, when you're talking about that, to me there's two different kinds of expenses, right? There is actual boat preparation maintenance expense. So capital improvements and maintenance of the boat. And then there's a bunch of other expenses preparing to go cruising, like vaccines.
I'm not counting that.
I know.
I'm saying straight into the
boat. Okay, a sat phone, is that straight into the boat? I don't know, because that's
Yeah.
you have a cell phone at home, so it's sort of the same thing, but it's for use on the boat and that type of.
Yeah, but I mean that's more like that's living. I say boat improvements is the new halyards and the new chain plates and the new standing rigging and the new mast paint and the new mattress and the new cushions and
But that's because you were getting high maintenance.
But you said that before, you fall in love, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
And she needs everything.
Yeah.
People have this argument a lot that boats cost so much, but if you translate that to house costs,
I think it's the same.
you have a good, because this is interesting because you have a good overview of your finances, and I think it's interesting if you would talk a little bit about that comparison because you had a good home and so on. And
we lived relatively conservatively in reality, so the boat costs more than the rest of our reality per month, and just what we were spending on it between the slip payment and the boat's paid off, so for one thing, but the slip payment and what we would spend on refit every month, sometimes like the rigging and the mast paint was one large chunk that added to the monthly average, but then every month you go to West Marine and you drop $500, it seems like. And
Here's the thing, I think, though, is we owned a house that was built in 2006. And so it was in the first 10 years of its life. And I think, it didn't have a lot of upkeep, maintenance, things to rebuild in the house. And this boat is a 30-year boat. So if the house was 30 years old, if the house was 100 years
Closer,
old,
yeah.
You're starting to talk about replacing systems in it that would be as expensive as replacing it in a boat. I honestly think, if you're talking about choosing between a boat, living on a boat, and living in a house, ultimately the boat will be cheaper because although you have the refit cost to make a boat seaworthy to go to ocean, and you have the maintenance cost there, there's only so much space on this boat. And so you're not going to be buying the same number of clothing. You're not going to be buying, 150 pairs of shoes. You're going to have 5.
Not going to be buying a 50-inch big screen TV.
Yeah, you're not going to be buying TVs. There's different things that you buy, and you're limited. And so what that means is you're limited in the objects that you can have, but the thing that's really neat about a boat is you're not limited in the experiences that you can go seek because the boat can go everywhere. So, I don't know, to me, when I look at those finances, the other thing is, yeah, if you pay off your house or you pay it down so that the mortgage is not very much, correct, it's less than the boat. But for the average mortgage that we would have carried if we had not been focused on this dream and focused on buying this boat, it was a lot more.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot more. I think living on land is a lot more. So.
Because you have to have cars.
Oh, that wasn't even getting into the car. You're right. The cars. Oh, 2 cars. You always have 2 cars because everybody has to go in different directions all at the same time.
And if you have
And
a
the
decent car, you
insurances.
have at least $1,000
Absolutely.
if you didn't pay it off, right?
Right.
Car costs $10,000 a year.
Exactly.
Yeah, cars. Oh gosh, cars. Yeah.
Even when they aren't paid off, they still
Yeah.
go down in value. Costs you $10,000 a year, one way or the
No,
other.
absolutely. I mean, I think living a fairly conservative lifestyle, our costs, excluding the boat on land, were $5,500 a month. Our costs on the boat we're projecting at $4,000 a month, and that's including insurances like health insurances and disability insurance, boat insurance, life insurance, and boat maintenance. So I don't know, to me that seems cheaper.
Yeah. Similar to life. Similar to cheaper. How's that?
Similar. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's a
We
very
will argue a detail to death.
Well, yeah.
No, but this was cool because this is the questions people have before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is what they. We're gonna try to do it on less,
Right.
Because we're gonna try to do it on less. Could you talk a little bit about self-sufficiency on boat? What kind of systems you have, and how that could feed into a different lifestyle, and maybe kind of getting self-sufficient out of the society a little bit. You know, you kind of, I don't know if you think of it that way.
I mean, I don't necessarily think of it that way. You know, you have your motivation for being on a boat is kind of the environmental aspect of it. I don't know that I've ever really approached the boat because of that. There's no, like, I'm not doing it for an environmental reason. I think living on 400 square feet, essentially, you know, like 10 by 40 square, you're going to use less. I know that I can take a shower in 3 gallons of water versus at home, you know, it's just you sit there, you let it get warm, you make sure it's nice and hot, and then you get in and you kind of just like stand there under the hot water for a few minutes. And so I think I have less impact on the world just being on the boat in general, but it's not my driving force. In the we're from Nevada, there's a lot of like desert rat survivalist type people, especially in the industry that I work in. And so there is some concept that I like of, I have, 450 watts of solar, I have a wind generator, I have a water maker, and even though I have a refrigerator, I can pretty much be in balance just using the things around me. So in that little like survivalist mentality, I can make my own water. All I need is a 50-pound bag of rice stuck down in the bilge, and I'm good to go for a few months. Might not be the wife might not be thrilled about 50 pounds of rice, but
we can fish.
we can, yeah. I mean, so there is a lot of self-sufficiency to it, in that sense, but you can live on less on the boat, but kind of what I've more determined as self-sufficiency recently is in the things that we're buying for the boat. I'm not necessarily buying things, I'm buying tools to fix the boat. Even within 10 miles off the coast of California, you're on your own. You're moving at 5 miles an hour on a good day. And so if you're 10 miles off the coast, you are 2 hours from the coast. If anything goes, that's to ram the boat up on the beach because you're sinking kind of thing. But if you're 2 hours off the coast, if anything goes wrong with the boat, you better have the tools on board to be able to fix it. And that's the self-sufficiency that I kind of more feel with the boat. Is I am responsible for making sure that it's staying where it is. The people who just left the boat, everyone assumes that you're going to stay close to the coast. I don't know how you go around the world and stay close to the coast. But from the Galapagos Islands to the Marquesas is like 2,800 miles. So at one point you are 1,500 miles from dirt. And I'm not necessarily, I've never been to the Marquesas. I don't know what's there. Maybe there's big skyscrapers, but you're 1,500 miles away from, continents, and 1,500 miles away from a little speck of dirt in the middle of the ocean. So you better be self-sufficient. The book Once Is Enough. They lose the mast twice, and it's like, oh, that sucks, and they rig away, and there's no. That was back in the day before EPIRBs. That was, if you lose your mast, you better try and salvage the boom so that you can, jury rig something so you can get yourself back to the continent. And I kind of see it in that way, even though I have an EPIRB and, the average is within 24 hours or something, some tanker ship's going to come by and pluck you out of the ocean. But I would like to be able to sail myself back to the continent on a jury rig, at least be able to, if that's what I wanted to undertake. That's my self-sufficiency.
Yeah, I agree.
You probably completely think of things differently than I do, but...
No. Why do you say that?
Well, because I don't think you read or do the same things that I do.
But actually, no, I agree with you. To me, our decision-making on the boat is the self-sufficiency that I think about on a boat. There isn't anybody who can come in and say, this is the right thing to do right now. When you are trying to decide which storm tactic to apply, or, which repair to apply, or...
Employ.
Okay, employ, yeah. It's all up to you. And, you can read books, and you can, especially when you're on land, you can Google something. When you're out there, those books are still there. The Google box is not anymore. But you have to make a decision. It has to be your own, and you have to live with it. We have a sailing mentor who says, when you're offshore and you hear a bump in the night, you've got to go see what it is. There isn't anybody else who is going to go see what that bump in the night was to make sure that it was not something going wrong. And I believe in that whole black box theory of sailing. I don't know, most sailors know about this, but essentially you need a couple of things to survive at sea. One is this ability to think things through, and your tools and all of that. And then there's just there's an element of luck. But you build up your luck by doing the right things and by, trying to do the little things. For example, when we were out sailing up to Santa Barbara, suddenly we look and one of the lifelines has come just a little bit looser than it usually is. And it would be very easy. It wasn't going to hurt anybody. There was nothing really immediately wrong with the lifeline. You could have left it there until we get back down. But it's a lifeline, and it's loose, and that's the thing that you use to hang on to sometimes. You should be hanging on to a handrail, but the lifeline is also there for that purpose. And so, if you want to make sure that you're doing all the right things, it's time to go tighten that lifeline. And we should do that. And so you do it. And, I think that's a part of self-sufficiency, too.
And it's never one thing that sinks the boat, it's always three. It's, there was the lifeline that was loose, that came completely loose, wrapped around the prop, and then the wind picked up to 40 miles an hour, and you couldn't, motor into the waves. And then you got swamped, and you sunk the boat. It was it's never one thing. And so if you notice one thing and you remove one thing, those two other things might still be there and be problems. But without number one, you're not going to get in trouble. So, always fix things, which is...
Take responsibility.
Yeah.
Well, and in that vein, I think managing the emotional aspects of being at sea is as important as managing the maintenance of the boat. I see this probably because it is my weakness, but I feel like there are fears that you experience at sea because you're so far away and it's all up to you. And in a lot of ways, do I think that I could run this boat all by myself? I could sail it for a while by myself, but as far as, if anything went awry with the mechanical systems, that's really his wheelhouse. Maybe I'd figure it out. I think I'd have to figure it out, but when I think about it...
You just don't. You just choose not to.
Changing oil is easy. I'm talking about a lot more complicated things. Troubleshooting is not my forte. But so, managing that fear, managing the crew morale, managing your seasickness, and making sure that you feel energetic enough to get up and go tighten the lifeline when it's the right time to do so. Making sure that you have eaten, at least recently enough that you have energy. Making sure that you've slept on a good watch is really important, because I think we're talking about the self-sufficiency. A lot of the books that I've read or videos that I've seen on the internet of people where they've had a failed trip, not only is this, the three things that lead up, but one of those things is almost always fatigue or hunger, and not caring for the inhabitants of the vessel, because, when you're tired, you're not making good decisions, and you're more panicky, and you're putting yourself in a weakened state. So when you have to wrestle the mainsail down...
I didn't tell you the other night, but, so the night that we were coming down to San Diego... That was why we kind of had an informal, I go till midnight and then she goes till 4. And we were both sort of overlapping that. I'd make it till 1 or 2 and she'd make it until 6 or 7. But the last night down to San Diego, so we'd been on the water for a couple of days already, and I could feel that we were going along, and it was right at midnight, so it was kind of my shift change, but I'd been going over the last few nights, and I was cold, so I was sitting there, and I'm like, I don't care what's out there. I don't even want to stand up and look around. It's just I'm cold. I'm comfy. You need to go off watch.
Yeah.
You're not doing a good job.
Right.
So I came down, woke you up, and then you came out and took over. So it was interesting because I very much care. I really don't want to be 10 miles out in the middle of the water and run into something. And so if I'm not caring, I shouldn't be up there. And it was time anyway, but so yeah, that was interesting.
That was a great answer to the questions, because I just went to a seminar, women who sail, whatever, and one of the things of being, I wanted to know what happens if you're self-sufficient on board, if you're single-handedly.
Oh gosh.
And she said, basically, when you're on watch, that's what you're doing. You're taking responsibility. You can always go and wake somebody up. And she was suggesting, too, that when you're tired, you wake the other person up. The other person might have an hour or two, but it's an hour or two more sleep than you had. And it doesn't matter. Even if those 4-hour windows might not work for you. Maybe you're both in state of exhaustion that 1.5 hours is enough. But it's important that you don't fall asleep. And you know that about yourself. And that was great that you said that on the videos.
Yeah.
Yay! So, tip. Do you have any tips? What would you have done differently? Any kind of...
So currently, I don't have sailing tips. I have goal planning tips. What would I have done differently? I would have not bought that silly house. But that's a whole other topic.
Focus, if you have a goal, focus on the goal. Don't, so originally the plan was to go at, basically retire early, 45. Have 2 kids at 30, and, they'd be teenagers, and go at 45, go around the world, and send them off to college kind of thing. And 30 came and went 4 years ago, and didn't want kids, and so we changed the goal a little bit, I guess 5 years ago now, to make it to sail in 2016 and go around before. So a 5-year plan way back when we were 39. And so I guess we bought the house with a different plan in mind, but really the house was an attachment, and it's a thing that you spend money on. We have a bedroom set, and we have a living room set, and we have new paint in the whole house, and we put in a beautiful backyard. And if we just rented something, all of that could have gone to the boat, and we could have gone years ago. But I don't know. I have very few regrets about anything that I've done. I've made mistakes that were due to larger factors in the world. My father always said, buy a house, and if you rent, you're just throwing away money, and houses always go up in value up until they go down by 67%. And so I was just kind of doing what I was told. I was doing the normal thing, and so I can't really regret doing normal in a way. But no, I have very, very little regrets about what I've done. We lived a good life, and we're accomplishing the goal also. I had a beautiful house. We went on vacations. We did things. We went out to nice meals, and I am accomplishing this. So nothing, no regrets or
because one of the things
changes that I can actually do.
Yeah, I think if you make a goal and you can accomplish it in 3 years or less, you're not missing out on a lot of life while you hammer through that goal. But for us, I mean, we were so far away from this. You're talking about an entire decade of our lives. And so I think it's important to balance
an entire decade of a 24-year-old's life.
Of a 24-year-old's life. Yeah, so at that point, it's like
50%. In the neighborhood of 50% of your entire experience on this planet.
Yeah. And so to be able to balance what's most important to you, you usually can find the resources to fund with time and money your top 3 goals. And so if your top goal is to go sailing, and your secondary goal is to build a career, and your third goal is to build a good connection with family and friends, that is completely doable over the course of a decade. But you have to pay attention. This is my tip. You have to pay attention. And you have to look at what you're doing almost on a daily basis. For us, the way we did it was at the beginning of each year, we sat down and we said, okay, what do we need to do by the end of this year to feel like we have lived our best life and made the headway that we need towards this goal? And we would write down large goals, and then we'd write down how to get those large goals in little bite-sized chunks. And we'd put it on a piece of paper, and we'd print it out, and we would hang it up in our bathroom. And every night, I would go in there, and I would, because you see your bathroom every single day. That's why we put it there. And I'd go in there, and I'd go down the list, and I'd be like, okay, I worked on this today, and I worked on that today, and I worked on this today. And it included everything from, like, I want to make sure that I mountain bike at least 24 times this year. I want to make sure that I go camping at least 4 times this summer. I want to make sure that, this year we identify a good boat and a good budget for the boat and determine whether our budget is correct. That type of thing. Every single thing went on there. And then, if you're looking at that every day, you can look at yourself and go, ask yourself truly, am I really making headway today, or have I been distracted? And without a doubt, there were times we got distracted. But you can look at yourself and say, was I distracted while I was fooling around at Nordstrom's in the shoe section? I mean, do I need those shoes for these top priorities, or am I just doing this because it's kind of fun? And if it's kind of fun, that's the most dangerous thing, right? Because you want to do something kind of fun. It feels good, but it's taking you away from the thing that is.
And when you move on a boat, you throw away a lot of shoes.
Yeah, that's true. You didn't need those shoes. But your truest path is way more important than just having a little bit of fun. And you know that. But how do you keep yourself on that track? I think it's paying attention every day. That's my tip.
Cool. Do you have
sailed that, I mean, you have sailed recently. We have a couple of sailing questions. The greatest moments so far, sailing-wise, or anything with boat concerning?
A good day sailing beats any day at work. I don't know if there's any like single epic.
They're all epic.
Yeah, they're all kind of epic. Like there is sailing which is good and terrible on days, but mostly good. And then there's kind of the rest of reality. I mean, we've done some sailing around in Hawaii, which was, I mean, that really was amazing. You know, to sail between the different Hawaiian islands. That was kind of what I want to do. We sailed down to Key West. We had a good time. Sailed over to Catalina and had an interesting weekend. And then all the time that we spent on this boat and the boat that we had in Lake Mead.
The most epic times for me is any time that I cross a threshold where all of a sudden I realize I can do this. I can do this. For example, when we first started sailing, probably I remember feeling this way. So we started racing with the Nevada Yacht Club, and our race captain. Well, the first week we went there. I don't know, if you're looking to learn how to sail, the best way to learn how to sail is to go racing, because
if you like that, actual sailing is much less miserable.
Oh, jeez, no, but
we're sitting on a 110 degree hard fiberglass thing with no seats because those had weight. And you're sitting there and you're going like a half a knot and you're hunched down on the low side of the damn boat and you're all squished together and it's hot and you can't go get water because it's down below and you'll throw the weight off because you're only going a half knot anyway, but you're racing and you know that you have to sit in this stupid position for the next 2 hours because you're racing. And versus cruising of, you know what? I want a little bit of rum and Coke. I'm not going to throw the balance of this 32,000 pound boat off if I go from the high side of the boat down to the middle and pour myself a rum and Coke. So if you can handle cruising,
or if you can handle racing,
if you can handle racing, cruising is much better.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Okay. I like racing. I think it's fun.
I love racing. I do. I enjoy racing. I enjoyed all the racing we did, but racing has a certain level of misery built in with it that, again, if you have the sickness of loving sailboats, you will appreciate. And then if you go cruising and someone puts you in a beanbag and hands you a rum and Coke, you will go, oh, yes.
This is great.
Keep them coming.
Cool. Well, so where I was going with this is, so we start racing, and racing is great because you have to learn everything fast. So it pushes you into a place where you get to learn everything fast.
And you go out on days that are shit.
And you go out on days you
high.
would not otherwise go out on. Both, a drifter and really heavy wind. And it shocks you. You look at this boat and you're like, I cannot believe this mast is staying up in this wind with that much sail up. But more than that, so we get invited onto a J33, which is a fairly fast boat and a very decent boat, and the crew is really great. And in the first couple of years, we get to sit and watch and help and trim, and we move our weight from side to side, and we get to see how the boat runs, and we work as a team, and it's great. And then at some point, I decided that I wanted to learn how to run the bow.
I don't think it was that long in. Bobby broke his back
a year and a half. I don't know when it was, but in any case, getting into there before he broke his back, I decided, luckily, that I wanted to learn how to run the bow. And our race captain is awesome. He's super patient. He has been sailing his entire life. Since he was a little kid, his dad would run up and handle all the sails, and he would give his little son the tiller and say, okay, steer, push it to the right, push it to the left. And, so he's been racing his entire life. But even at that, he was willing to let me learn this. Because the bow, when you're running a spinnaker, it's spaghetti and tangles and a pole and a big sail. And, I think I learned more learning that about sailing than probably anything else, because our other bow guy, you know, he's also been racing. He's raced on Transpacks too, I think.
Yeah.
And he's raced Holder 20s from, what is it? There's a couple of races that go down to Ensenada from here.
Yeah.
Newport to Ensenada, that type of thing. He's a very accomplished racer too. And there's things that he would say, you know, like one hand for you, one hand for the boat. Everyone's heard that a million times. But, you know, he would really explain how important that is. And wearing a life jacket. And always having, the guy has a vest that's the MacGyver vest. If you're like, oh, I need a whatever, he'd be like, I got it in my vest. And I learned a lot from him. And unfortunately, he broke his back. I think it was it on a Transpac or on a Newport race? Something.
It was some race like that.
He fell on the bow of the boat, broke his back, and that left us without a bow guy other than me. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I've been working with our bow guy at that point, and you think you can do it? And I'm like, oh no. But I appreciate your faith in me. And so that epic moment that you're asking, what is the epic moment? It's that moment that, like, I've stuffed the spinnaker, I've run the ribbons, I've made sure that everything is lined up the way it's supposed to be, I've run the lines, and I've checked them 300 times to make sure they're on the outside of everything. And then we round the mark, and they say hoist, and I'm hoisting, and it goes up and it fills in big wind, and everything is fine. Nothing goes to complete chaos. That's epic, because you're like, wait, I can do this. And then when you take it down successfully in succession, it's even better. But yeah, and then I feel the same way about a night watch. The first night watch I did that didn't go awry, you know, as the first light happened, and I had committed to staying up all night and being like, I'm gonna make this. And then it happened, it was like, oh, okay, this is epic. I can do this.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. How are we on time?
Doesn't matter.
Scariest moment? Any scary moments yet?
Yes.
Yeah, which one?
Yeah.
So out racing, I was in the hatch, the doorway hatch. Companionway hatch with my arms like wrapped on the hatch with water flowing under my stomach because do we have the spinnaker? Yeah, we had the spinnaker up. We'd come out from behind an island and just a big old gust of wind just laid us over on our side. This is in Lake Mead, so it's not waves, it is pure wind that has shoved the boat over. And you know, so there's water 4 feet up the side of the boat. Like the boat is heeled so far, the boat is sideways, the mast is down in the water, I have water running under my chest, and I'm just holding on to the companionway for dear life. And everyone else is, everyone else was on the high side, because I was on the low side, trimming the sail. And everyone's watching me, down in the water. And so that was terrifying. But you know what? The boat pops right back up. These little fiberglass boxes are pretty amazing in a certain sense. This last weekend, like I said, 20 knots. When you go just out into the ocean, out of the bay, but you're going to be back in your slip by 5 o'clock, 20, 25 knots, the boat's just bouncing along, everything's fun. When you have 2 hours to the shore and 12 hours to Santa Barbara, 20 to 25 knots feels terrifying, because you have, if you go to where you want to go, you have 12 more hours of this crap. And I wasn't in any danger. Like everything at any given moment was just fine. But when you're going to sleep at night and all of a sudden you feel like you're falling, that happens every third wave or so. As you fall off the wave, you get this in your stomach, and so you're like this for every 30 seconds and you think I have 12 more hours of this, and how strong is fiberglass? Do you know how strong fiberglass is? I don't know. There's some days where I go out and test it, but you see that bow go clear up in the air and then fall, and then go clear up in the air, and this, like I said, 32,000 pounds. The energy that's involved in moving, and it's not like it's 5 minutes up and 5 minutes down. It's 2 seconds up and 2 seconds down, and there's that the water is cold. I'll probably be alright, but I'm not going to be a happy person for a couple of hours while I'm swimming in that water waiting for somebody to helicopter me out. And So there's some scary to it, but
The most terrified.
none of it was actually scary. Everything was fine on all occasions, but it just feels terrifying.
That's terrifying. The most terrified I've ever been. We went on a shakedown run in April, and I think it was a confluence of things. So the plan. We had a plan. And the plan was that before either of us quit our really, nice jobs. We had nice jobs. Before we quit any of our nice jobs, we would go out on an official shakedown run and see, do we get over our seasickness? Do we really like this? Is it really something that we want to do? And that was the plan. At the right before, I think it was at the end of March or whatever, my law firm had invited me to become a shareholder at the firm. And so that was a really great opportunity for me. And I was excited about that. And like 2 weeks later, he decides he's going to have his annual review with his boss, and he's going to tell his boss at his annual review before our shakedown run. He went off plan. So he does this, and so now he's committed. And we haven't done our shakedown run yet, and I have just gotten
I figured
this
she
really...
could keep working. I'll just sit around the house if we aren't going to go on this trip.
Fine. Great. I have this really nice opportunity at work, and we decided we go on this shakedown run. That's great. And we go out there, and the plan was, it was a very aggressive plan. Too aggressive. It wasn't ever going to work. To sail from here to Santa Cruz and back down in 1 week. Not going to work. The Northern Passage in California is actually tough because the wind comes from the north, the waves and current come from the north, and it's a fair chunk of space, but Point Conception is up there too, and that's almost always crazy wind around Point Conception. Mm-hmm. And so you can do it, but it takes longer than a week. And especially if you have no sea legs, you have no seasickness training at all, you've come straight from sitting behind your desk at the office to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride in the boat, it's kind of miserable. But, we really want to try because we really think, well, if we're going to sail around the world, then we obviously should be able to sail up to Santa Cruz. So we jump in the boat, and on the very first day, we take off, thinking this is a great idea. We've checked the weather, and it's forecasted to be 30 knots, essentially, all week. We're kind of disappointed that it's going to be that heavy, but we can manage.
But that doesn't sound like much. Again, like I said, from out in the bay, 25 knots, not a big deal.
Sure. So we have a lovely sail northward all day, and we're finding our way. It gets dark, and I didn't realize this was going to happen to me. But, somehow, some people freak out when all of a sudden you can't see land. I freak out when the sun goes down. Didn't know this. Have never freaked out before when the sun has gone down and we're sailing, but for whatever reason, being offshore, seeing the sun go down, made me really anxious. And then on top of that, I was seasick. And on top of that, I didn't want to be seasick. On top of that, he's already quit his job. And on top of that, is it insane for me to quit this really great opportunity in my own career? All of those things happening at once that night was the most terrifying moment of sailing, of my professional career, of anything. Is this crazy? So after chumming for fish twice, we decide that we're going to turn around and go to Santa Cruz, the up and over land route, and regroup.
Via I-5.
Via I-5. And we did. And, thank goodness we did, because I think I really enjoyed myself. I enjoyed the freedom of having a week away. And by the time... It was the
first time we took a week off, like a full week off since like 2008.
No, 11, we went to Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2011.
2011 to 2015 was the first time we took a full week off.
Right, it was silly.
So...
For a vacation.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so by the time we came back down from Santa Cruz, we had decided to fix the autopilot. This is the other thing, we were hand steering.
Didn't have an autopilot.
Didn't realize how annoying hand steering is. Hand steering is annoying.
Particularly when it's cold and you just want to be cuddled up under that blanket. You don't want to be sticking your arm out adjusting that wheel every 20 seconds.
Yeah, no. That was just not fun. So we came back, we fixed the autopilot, and then we sailed up to Oceanside, which is just a 12-hour sail. But okay, 9-hour. It's not even a night sail. And you pull into the port, and then you go to the beach, and you have dinner on your boat, and you're somewhere different. And suddenly, it's awesome again. You're like, okay, I was terrified. It's awesome again. And so I think you then have to do something to manage your fear and that type of thing. But yeah, that was the scariest moment for me. I can't believe that we are made to come and do the same thing that everybody did before us and everybody around us are doing. Like, I just can't believe that is the best life a human can live. I think, as a kid, you're told everybody's special and everybody is different and everybody's unique. And I believe that's very true. And I think that your life path is probably also unique. And so if you find yourself doing the thing that everybody thinks is the same and acceptable and appropriate, sometimes that might mean that you're missing something that you should be doing. And whether it's sailing or whether it's something completely different, for me, every time I have been completely out of my comfort zone, way outside of where I feel okay, is where the most learning happens and where the most life magic happens. So I do get restless and afraid and concerned when all of a sudden everything is pretty easy. That's when I'm like, we gotta shake something up.
And I don't let us get there very often.
No, and yeah, he prevents that, so.
That's cool. You kind of answered already the next question, which was sacrifices and gains.
Yeah, there's more. Everyone, as we've been telling everyone, it's like, I wish I could do that. But I'm giving up I had a beautiful backyard, I had a beautiful fire pit, we got like 45 people. We don't live here, and we have 45 people coming to like wave at us goodbye. So I have a ton of really good friends in both Utah and Nevada, and I'm going a very long way away from them. I'm going a long way away from my beautiful house. We both love mountain biking, and that one's kind of been that is what I consider myself a mountain biker even before I consider myself a sailor. And so giving up mountain biking, we're packing our shoes and our pedals and stuff, and we're gonna probably buy a bike in New Zealand and go do some mountain biking there. And so that's the carrot at the end of the stick for me. But giving up mountain biking, giving up my friends, giving up my house, giving up an income. Have you ever? Every 2 weeks, this chunk of money just gets dropped into my lap is kind of what it seems like. And now I go to West Marine, I spend a whole bunch of money, and you know what? This Friday, there's not a big check coming in. So there's a little bit of sacrifice in
security.
Security, a huge sacrifice in security.
Yeah, right.
And so it's all worthwhile, I think, but you give up a lot more than I thought you would give up. I thought this would be an addition. There's a lot of subtraction, particularly where we are right now. Right now, we've given up everything that we had, but we haven't gone anywhere. When I sail down to Ensenada, and I sail down, and I get to the Galapagos Islands, and I get to all these, places of my dreams, I'll be getting something back. But right now, I've just given up, and I've got nothing. Yet.
Besides the enjoyment of San Diego and
but I had the enjoyment of San Diego.
Yeah, that's true.
And a paycheck and friends and a house.
Yeah.
For the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But isn't it a perception?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all definitely perception. But I'm just saying that right now all that I can perceive is what I've given up, and I can't. I have no evidence of anything gained yet.
I understand. It's too close to the moment you did it.
2 months from now, all
It's
this will
gonna
start.
change.
It'll start paying back. The dividends are just a little bit further off in the future. Someday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For me, all of those things as well. And then, it's just time. Time is the one limited resource you can never get back. I can rebuild. We built the fire pit in the backyard. Mm-hmm. We can build another one.
We built our careers.
We built our careers. We built our networks. I don't want to give up on those people at all. But we can build that again. The thing you can't ever get back is time. And when you look around at the people you love the most, your families, your parents, it's funny. For me, everyone, no matter what age you are, you're in the same boat with life and death. Like, all of us could die in the next minute. All of us could live another 30 years. I mean, I think the oldest person is 100 on the earth so far has been 122, I think. So if you're 95, that means you still have, really bad at math, almost 30 years.
If you're 92.
Oh, yeah, if you're 92. You have 30 years still. So, in that sense, I have to remind myself, everyone has their own life to live, and with me going away from them, they have their own things that they're doing, and it's okay. But still, the time is what I don't get back. With my sister, in this moment, she's in college. My other sister is growing her career in Santa Cruz. My parents are just newly free birds, if you will. Empty nest free birds, and I'm going to miss that part of their lives, other than by FaceTime and email and those things. And you know what? Frankly, the fact that you have that technology is amazing, because 20 years ago, sailors wouldn't have that. But yeah, to me, that's the biggest sacrifice. And the biggest gain for me has been the challenge of thinking all these things through. I don't think I would have thought about this stuff if I didn't have this crazy scheme in my mind. And I think especially this last year, springtime at our house.
You appreciate the mountain bike. You appreciate the house. You appreciate the friends. You appreciate even the work. Stretch some days, but you appreciate all of this stuff a little bit more, because next year is not going to be there.
It's different. Next year's going to be different.
Yeah.
What's funny is, when you're sitting there around the fire pit, you're not thinking, I'm missing out on Fiji right now.
No.
But you are. Every day is a choice. And you have to give up something today to have something else today.
She's great. She's good. You always do this sum up things. It's perfect. It's all this training.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So February 28th, 2016 is the date, because we actually went on our very first date on February 28th of 2003. We went hiking, and I brought fancy beer in my backpack and cheese and apple, because I asked him out. And he thought he was saying yes to somebody else completely. He didn't know who I was. When we met at the trailhead, he was like, "Oh, you're a completely different person than I thought you were." But so we went on the hike, and we got to the top, and I pull out beer, and he was like, "Oh, this is good." And then we came back down, and we went to the symphony. We went to coffee, and he said to me, "Do you like the symphony?" I'm like, "Yeah, do you?" He was like, "Yeah." So we went to the symphony. It was great February 28th. Mm-hmm. And then it was February 28th of 2005, and we didn't plan this, it just happened, was the first Frostbite Series race at the Great Salt Lake Yacht Club. And that was the first date we stepped on a sailboat. So we thought to ourselves, it's a good day for a new beginning. So we checked to make sure that it was not on a Friday, because sailors do not leave port
Don't start
on
a voyage on Friday.
No. And in fact, it's on Sunday, which sailors say is the best day to start a voyage. So that solidified things. It had to be our step-off date. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're doing. And then my dream destination, San Diego. Mm-hmm. Right? Because that means I've made it all the way around. But But if you really want
And
to
it's
get
beautiful. It's
and
kinda,
it's
it is.
beautiful. It's a great place.
Leaving here is going to be one of the harder things of life. You know, we have friends here. I have excellent restaurants.
Yeah. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, I think I'm really excited for I'm excited for a lot of things.
Maldives is what you keep telling me.
Yeah, I do keep picking Maldives. So I picked Maldives because I have read and heard that with global warming, they could very well be underwater soon. And it's supposed to be one of the most amazing diving destinations and all of that in the whole world. So, and it's, I believe it's French, so there's a lot of French food there. So the food might be good. I think that one will be nice. And then New Zealand because of the mountain biking. Anywhere in the world that I get to mountain bike and sail, I think that's where my soul lives. So
Yeah.
I will enjoy that.
And my dream place is Thailand. I love Thai food. I want to learn how to do Thai cooking. I want to. It's supposed to be really cheap. It's supposed to be really friendly. We might get trapped there. We might just live in Thailand forevermore. But we'll see how good the food is. Might be like Chinese food. The American interpretation of Chinese food is very different than Chinese food in China. If Thailand is anything like what we have here, I might get stuck there. But
We're not getting stuck. You can go all the way around and then come back through.
okay.
Yeah.
So that concludes the interview, and we wish you fair winds and following seas, and we will follow you on your blog. And
Yeah, please make an
I
announcement.
want to do
on
this
your
again
blog.
in a year. It'd be really funny to
Oh,
watch this
yeah.
video and then do it again in a year.
Okay,
Sure.
that's a date.
That's
Yeah.
a date.
So let us know about your blog.
Oh yeah, okay, so the blog will be www.oddgodfrey.com, ODDGODFREY, oddgodfrey.com. And I will be posting, I will try to post 3 days a week, but no more, because I'm busy,